Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this medical aid update. We're going to give the rest of the attendees 2 more minutes, and then we'll get started. Okay, great. I think we can start. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. My name is Amy Govender. I'm a consulting manager in the NMG Healthcare Division, and I'm going to be taking you through your 2026 update on the Bonitas Medical Scheme. Just a brief intro into NMG. We are an independent financial services provider. We are accredited with all of the independent medical schemes, in this instance, Bonitas. So when you deal with us and our consultants, they're all fully accredited to give you the correct information and advice to help you choose your plan for 2026. A brief overview of the agenda for today. We will be taking you through the contribution and benefit update, followed by a bit of refresher training on your existing benefits to make sure that you're getting the maximum value. And then we will round up with an option summary and the wellness program and contributions. As we go through the session, please feel free to use the chat function to post any questions. It will be monitored, and we'll attempt to answer your questions during the course of the session. So going into the benefits and contribution updates for 2026, hopefully you would have received this communication directly from both NMG and from the medical scheme. Bonitas announced an average increase of 8.8% going into the new year. These increases are varied across all of the different plans, as you can see on your screen. It's important to remember that each of these plans across all medical schemes, not just Bonitas, have to be self-sustainable. What this means is that the contributions that come in for each of these plans have to be sufficient to pay the claims for those plans. And what you'll find across the industry is that the lower end options, like the bond cap option, which is the income-based option, and then the top end options like the bond comprehensive, as an example, generally have much higher utilization. And you will see that those contribution increases are generally much higher. The popular savings options like Bond Save and Bond Fit Select, those had a 7 and a 6.9% increase. Standard is quite a popular plan at 9% and so on. There is a new plan called the Bond Core option, which I'll take you through in the next slide. This is a new plan that is targeted at tech-savvy members. It is a hospital plan that is network-based. So you have to go to a network of private hospitals on this option. It is garnered towards the demographic, the kind of younger demographic. So if you think of the demographic that's just coming, off their parents' medical aid or just starting in the working environment, where you're looking for basic hospital cover for emergencies, that's where this plan fits in. So like I mentioned, you have cover in a defined network of private hospitals. There are some exclusions on this plan. So it is things like joint replacements and back and neck surgery. You do get a small day-to-day benefit. So it's unlimited virtual consultations with the network GP and 3 in-person GP consultations. You have screening benefits, you have a chronic benefit, and you have the benefit booster up to a value of 1,000 Rand. Very importantly on this plan as well is that this plan will attract a co-payment for all elective procedures. So any planned procedure in hospital will have a co-payment. The co-payment on this plan is 5,500 Rand. The only exception is for motor vehicle accidents, for maternity, and for emergencies. Okay. The other thing to be aware of, you can see on your screen to the right, the contribution per person on this option. It's quite an attractive premium at 1,275, and that's why you have some of those slight restrictions on the plan. This plan is most suitable for single people, so if you have one person on the membership. Or potentially another adult. So every dependent on this plan will pay 1,275, irrespective of whether they are an adult dependent or a child dependent. So if you have child dependents, this plan could potentially be a little bit expensive, and we would recommend you talking to a consultant around this option. The second plan has been, it's not necessarily a new plan, it's a change from an existing plan. So the primary select option was a traditional efficiency discount option. So what that means was, firstly, it was a network of hospitals that you had cover for in hospital. And secondly, from a day-to-day perspective, you had defined benefits for the different day-to-day categories. Going into 2026, this plan has been changed. It will now be a savings plan. So you'll have 16% of your contributions that goes into a medical savings account, and all of your day-to-day expenses gets paid from that savings account. So it will no longer be a traditional plan. This applies to the primary select option only. The primary option remains as is. Okay. So what this means is, remember on those defined benefits, previously on the old primary select, you had a GP and specialist consult, you had dental benefits that were separate, optical benefits that were separate. All of that will now be funded from a savings perspective. So there is more flexibility. Remember, from a savings perspective, you have freedom of choice to use your funds for any day-to-day benefit, as long as you've got funds available. And then if you don't use your savings by the end of the year, it carries forward to the new year. You don't lose the benefits. On a traditional structure, if you don't use your benefits in that benefit year, it falls away and you get new benefits in the new year. In terms of the other benefit enhancements, so these are small benefit adjustments. So from a chronic perspective, on the bond comprehensive plan, which is the highest option, there's a new condition that has been added. So it's benign prostate hyperplasia. So this is generally found in older men. For diabetes, the insulin pump and glucose monitoring device benefit has been unbundled. Previously, this benefit was on a 5-year cycle. The insulin pump benefit still remains on a 5-year cycle, but the glucose monitoring device and its consumables has been moved to a 1-year cycle. Okay. Every year, the chronic and acute medication formularies are adjusted. So you might have medication that has been put onto the formulary or removed off the formulary. The formularies are available online, or you can reach out to the scheme directly. If you have been impacted with one of your medications, the scheme will reach out to you directly. So we would definitely recommend that you update your email address and your contact information with the medical schemes. Because of the POPI Act, medical information is not filtered through NMG. It will be sent directly to you. From a dental and periodontal enhancement benefit, the bond save benefit for in-hospital has been enhanced. For in-hospital dentistry, Bond Prime and Primary will now have access to a periodontal program. And then periodontal examinations will now be covered every 12 months on Bond Comp, Bond Classic, Standard, Standard Select, Bond Complete, Bond Save, and Bond Fit. Importantly, on the primary Bond Prime and Bond Cap option, cover for dentures has been removed. Bonitas was one of the few providers that still covered dentures on these options. They've now kind of moved in line with the rest of the industry. And then on the Bond Prime option, you will be allowed, which is that new option we just spoke about, you will be allowed to use the benefit booster to cover your dental benefits. From an oncology perspective, oncology is covered across all plans. The plans range from PMB cover only all the way up to cover at 448,000 Rand on the Bond Comprehensive option. Where there's a Rand limit, so from hospital standard up to Bond Comprehensive, if you had to reach these limits before the end of your 12-month cycle, because these are annual limits, you will still be covered thereafter, but you will be covered at 80%. So once you've reached these limits, you will have a 20% co-payment on all oncology treatment. I would recommend that you speak to us about taking up gap cover. All of the gap cover providers have an oncology benefit available that will cover that 20% co-payment. So please reach out to us to check if the product, if you have gap cover already, to make sure that oncology is included in that product, or if you don't have gap cover, to discuss you going on to gap cover. For 2026, the Bond Fit option, the benefit has been reduced to 168,000. So on that plan, you will reach that 20% co-payment a little bit sooner than you would have in 2025. A few other benefits. So on the primary Bond Prime and Bond Fit Select, they have introduced a benefit for antenatal classes of 1,100 Rand. Quite a nice benefit is cover for Synergis for preterm babies. So this is preventative treatment that is used for respiratory and lung disease. That will be covered on all plans except for the Bond Cap option. The contraceptive benefit exists already on your plans, so oral contraceptives are covered up to a Rand value across most of the options. From 2026, the Standard Select, Bond Prime, Bond Standard, Bond Essential, and Bond Essential Select options will also cover injectable contraceptives. So they will cover it at a Bonitas network pharmacy, and it will cover the administration and dispensing of the contraceptive. Okay. The back and neck program is quite a popular program from a Bonitas perspective. It has had a lot of success that has now been extended to shoulders and knees as well. And then in terms of your hospital networks, all of the plans that have a network, on an annual basis, these networks are adjusted and enhanced. This is available on the Bonitas website. You can use your Bonitas app as well to have a look and see if the hospitals that are on the network are still suitable for you. Remember, if you're on a network option and you go outside of your network, you will have a co-payment because you've gone against your plan, so to speak. It doesn't apply to emergencies. It applies to planned procedures only. In terms of updates to co-payments, if you are having a day procedure and you use a non-network, a non-DSP, a non-network facility, there will be co-payments based on your plan option. Those are listed on your screen. If you have gap cover with a co-payment benefit, you will be covered for penalty co-payments, which this would be because you would be going against your network. But you would just need to be mindful based on the gap cover policy that you're on, you would be restricted to 1 or 2 penalties in a year based on your cover. And then just a few other co-payments. Specialized radiology on Bond Fit and Bond Start Plus is going to be 2,800 Rand. On the Bond Start and Bond Start Plus options, those plans have admission co-payments for planned procedures. So every time you go into hospital on those 2 options, you will have to pay a co-payment. Bond Start Plus is 1,500 and Bond Start is 3,560 in 2026. Cataract surgery also requires you to use a network of providers. If you use another provider that is not on the network, you'll see on the last 2 points on your screen, based on your plan, you will have a specific co-payment, either 8,400 or 9,800 Rand. From a benefit booster perspective, hopefully you are all aware of the benefit booster and are using it. Benefit booster is quite a nice additional benefit from Bonitas, where once every adult dependent on your plan does a health screening, either at a participating pharmacy or at a wellness day, you will activate your benefit booster. This is an additional benefit that enhances your day-to-day. So for example, if you're on the Bonfit option, you would get an additional 1,440 Rand for your day-to-day expenses. If you're on the standard option, you'd get 5,000 Rand in your benefit booster. So for 2026, the same rules apply. You would have to complete your health screening, all adults on the plan. There is a small adjustment where you have to do an online mental health assessment as well, in addition to the screening, to activate that benefit. The primary option and the Bon Prime, which was the old Primary Select, that benefit has been increased. I think it was 3,800 this year. It's gone up to 4,000 Rand next year. And then lastly, there is a new benefit or a well-being program called B Value. This is at no extra cost to Bonitas members. So I would encourage you to go onto the Bonitas website. On the homepage, I think it's on the top right-hand side, there's a little tab that says B Value. You can click on that and register for the program. It allows you to get some discounts at Planet Fitness, on your registration fees, Virgin Active, Run Walk for Life, Eat for Life, and then some rewards from Clicks and Discount. This is a free benefit. It comes at no extra cost. It is also a benefit that has just been launched and is still being enhanced. So as the benefit progresses, there will be more partners that are included in this. Okay. So from an enhancements and benefit adjustments perspective for 2025, that sums up the changes. I'm going to now take you through just a bit of refresher on the current benefits to make sure that you are using the benefits correctly. So when you're looking at your medical aid policy, any medical aid is broken down into three categories. It's your hospital benefit, your chronic benefit, and your day-to-day benefit. Hospital benefit being the most important because that's where you would experience the most expensive treatment and costs and claims. So the things that you need to be aware of when you are going into hospital and when you are considering your plans for the new year, the first thing is the medical aid rate. So at what rate are you covered? In terms of all of the plans on Bonitas, you are covered at 100% of medical scheme rates. Sorry, I do see that there's a hand up. Are you able to type your question into the chat, please? And then we'll address it from there. The Bon Comprehensive option covers you at 150% of medical aid rates, and the rest of the plans covers at 100%. Now, what that means is every time you go in for a procedure, there is a specific Rand value, a rate that is attached to that procedure. Your medical aid will pay according to the plan that you've purchased at 100 or 150%. However, medical providers, your doctors and specialists, etc., they are independent providers. So they are, you can't have a third party tell them what to charge. So they are at liberty to charge as they feel fit for their services. All that means is that you, as the consumer and as the member, will be responsible for the difference. So it's very important that you understand the difference between the medical aid rates and what your doctor's charging. Some ways around that is if it's an elective procedure, you have the opportunity to find a doctor that's on the network that has agreed to charge according to your plan, or you can negotiate with your doctor directly. Okay. Other things that you need to consider is your hospital choices. So again, if you choose a network option, you have to go to the network that is attached to that plan. It's all private hospitals. If you go outside of the network, there will be a penalty. If you choose any option or freedom of choice, it means you can go to any hospital in the country. Now, when you look at network hospitals, if you have a life-threatening emergency, at that stage, you can go to any hospital and be stabilized, and you will then be moved to an appropriate hospital, a network facility, when it's appropriate to do so in conjunction with your medical practitioner. Remember, from a medical scheme perspective, your gap cover, your emergency definition is if you don't get treatment, you can pass away, you can lose function of an organ, or you can lose a limb. Anything over and above that is not considered an emergency. From a gap cover perspective, we've been referring to gap cover. Hopefully you have this benefit in place already. Gap cover is a separate product. It is not a Bonitas product. It is an independent product, but it works in conjunction with the medical aid option that you're on. If you are if you are joining us as part of an employer group, please speak to your consultant because you may have a specific gap cover product in place for your group. If you're an individual member in your private capacity, you have the option of joining any gap cover. But essentially, the product, irrespective of which company it's with or insurer it's with, works in the same way. It works for in-hospital procedures if you get admitted into hospital. And if your specialist or anesthetist charges more than medical aid rates, gap cover will increase the level of your cover up to 500% or more, depending on the product that you've chosen. Any standard co-payment that you have on your plan, things like MRI, CT scans, the specialized procedures, scopes, etc., will be covered in full under these options. Okay, I mentioned those penalty co-payments. If you go against your designated service provider, against your network, based on the cover that you have, there will be at least one penalty co-payment that's covered. I would recommend that you speak to NMG if you're interested in joining a gap cover product. We do have negotiated premiums across most of the providers, so you will benefit from that. And then to the right of your screen, we've had some actual cases of admissions in hospital, and the values that you are seeing are the shortfalls after the medical scheme has covered their portion. So it can be quite severe. Obviously, these are the extreme cases. From a chronic benefit perspective, your chronic conditions are covered across all plans. There are 28 conditions covered. Recently, Bonitas included depression as the 28th condition. They are listed on your screen. If you have one of these conditions, you need to register it with the medical aid. You are required to use medication that's on a formulary. So it's a list of medication per condition that is covered. If you use medication that's not on the formulary, you will incur a copayment. You are also required to use a designated service provider for the delivery of your medication. So based on your plan, it could either be the courier pharmacy, it could be Marara Pharmacy, or it could be Pharmacy Direct. On some of the higher options, there is a Bonitas network of pharmacies where you could go in and collect your medication as well. As you move to the higher options, standard, bond complete, bond classic, bond comprehensive, there are additional conditions that are covered on those options. And then the last benefit that we're going to look at is your day-to-day benefit. Your day-to-day benefit is essentially everything else. It's things like your GP consultations, your specialist consultations, medication, acute or over-the-counter, dentistry, glasses, etc. Very importantly, if you are going into a casualty unit at a hospital for treatment, that is seen as a day-to-day expense. So to give you an example, if you are not well or have an emergency and you go into a trauma unit at a hospital, if they treat you and they discharge you from the trauma unit to go back home, that is seen as a consultation at the hospital. If the visit is serious enough to warrant you being admitted, so if you get admitted directly from casualty into the hospital, then it is paid for from the hospital benefit and considered an admission. If you, just to give you another example, if you visit the casualty unit in the middle of the night and you just get discharged and you go home, but you're not well and you come back the next day, you had been discharged from the casualty unit, so you will be responsible for that cost from your day-to-day benefit. So it's very important to understand that although the casualty unit is at the hospital, if you are discharged from there, it is seen as a day-to-day expense. Now, there's different types of day-to-day cover. You have hospital plans. which is exactly that. Your hospital plans cover you for admissions and it covers you for chronic. All of your day-to-day expenses, you've got to fund out of your pocket. So the plans that are the hospital plans are the Bon Essential Select, Hospital Standard, and then that new Bon Core option. You have network plans, which give you defined benefits. So you've got to go to specific hospitals. There are some GP benefits, but these are at network providers, and some of them will have co-payments. Okay, those are the Bon Cap, Bon Start Plus, and Bon Start options. From a savings perspective, there are quite a few savings plans. You'll see that Bon Prime is on there as well, that new option. Your savings accounts are calculated as a percentage of your contribution, and that's what those percentages on there mean. From a savings perspective, you will have a rand amount based on your plan and based on your family size, and you will pay, all of your day-to-day expenses will be funded from those savings. Okay. If you use up your savings before the end of the year, you will have to self-fund. On some of the higher plans, you will get additional benefits. But if you're looking at Bon Prime, Bon Fit, Bon Save as an example, once your savings is depleted, you will only get savings again in the new year. If you still have savings at the end of the benefit year, it does carry forward, so you don't lose your savings, and it will be added to the New Year's benefit. Okay. The traditional plans, standard, select, and primary, this is where you have the defined limits. So you have your GP and specialist benefit. There's a rand value for that. There's a rand value for your allied providers like your physios and biokineticists. Kineticists, you will have a rand value for radiology and pathology, as well as for medication. Over and above that, there's a dental benefit and an optical benefit. You would have to stick to the limits within each of those categories, and these benefits don't carry forward to the new year. Okay. Maternity benefit is included on all plans. There are benefits for during pregnancy for things like your consultations with the GP or gynae. There are some vitamins that are covered. Private ward is only covered on the Bon Comprehensive options. Some blood tests and ultrasounds are covered as well. Once baby is born, for the first 2 years, there are benefits for mom and baby, things like lactation consult. There's the 6-week consult that is covered as well. And very importantly, immunizations are covered up to the age of 12 years old on Bonitas. And then just to sum up, these are the options across the board. If you look at the plan names that are listed on your screen, just below that is the contribution. Those contributions are for the main member only. It will obviously exclude any potential company subsidy if you're part of an employer group. So it would be the full contribution from the medical scheme. So Bon Comprehensive is the only plan that covers at 150%. The rest of the plans cover at 100%. Bon Classic and Bon Complete, you've got to go to a network of hospitals. 61 chronic conditions on Bon Comprehensive, and then you'll see 46 and 32 on the other 2 plans. The rest of the saver plans, probably Bon Save and Bon Fit are the popular options in terms of the savings plans. These are all network options, 28 chronic conditions covered with a medical savings account. You do have quite nice benefit booster benefits. So on the Bon Save option, it's a 5,000 Rand benefit booster. Bon Prime is 4,000 and Bon Fit Select is 1,440 Rand. Your traditional plans, standard, select, and primary. The standard options cover you for 45 chronic conditions, and then you've got those day-to-day traditional benefits that we spoke about. Standard plans also have the 5,000 Rand benefit booster. Primary has 4,000 Rand. The standard option gives you freedom of choice with regards to admissions, so you can go to any hospital. Standard, select, and primary, you've got to go to network hospitals. And then your hospital plans only. Bon Essential, you can go to any hospital. The rest of the plans are network-based. 28 chronic conditions. There's no day-to-day benefit, but you do qualify for the maternity benefits on these options. And then Bon Essential Select, and Bon Core will give you access to the benefit booster. So you can get a little bit of day-to-day benefits via the booster. The network options, Bon Cap is these are all network plans, so you've got to go to network facilities. Bon Cap's the only option on Bonitas where the contributions are determined by your income. So it's to make cover affordable for lower income earners. Also importantly, the Bon Cap option does have some exclusions in hospitals, so things like back and neck surgery, joint replacements, elective cesareans, and so on. That list is available on the website if you are interested in using this option. You do get unlimited GP consultations on the Bon Cap option, basic dentistry, and glasses every 2 years. Bon Start and Bon Start Plus, also network plans, you have admission co-payments on these two options. So every time you go into hospital for a planned procedure, there's an admission co-payment. You do have unlimited GP consultations, but there's a co-payment for every consult. There is a specialist consult benefit. It's up to R1 limit, and there will be a co-payment. You have an eye test that's covered and a dental checkup, but no further benefits for those two categories. And there is a small sports injury benefit and over-the-counter medication benefit on these two options as well. They also will qualify for the benefit booster. And then just to sum up, in terms of your contributions, the contributions are listed on your screen for the different options. Again, this is the standard contributions offered by Bonitas. If you are part of an employer group, it will exclude any company subsidy. From a medical scheme perspective, you are allowed to add your immediate dependents, yourself, your spouse, your children. Child dependents or children are considered child dependents and charged child rates up to the age of 24. You are charged for a maximum of 3 children. If you have more than 3 children, they will still be covered, but you will only pay for 3. This extends to all plans except for Bon Start Plus, and the Bon Cap options. On those 3 options, you will pay per dependent on the policy. If you have a look at the Bon Core option, the new option, you will see that new contribution of 1,275 applies to all dependents. The Bon Start option is similar. That contribution is 1,603, also applies to each dependent. And then from a Bon Cap perspective, remember this is the one that is income-based. So you'll see the different income bands based on the income of your membership. You would fall into one of these categories and then pay the according contribution. Again, remember that child dependents are up to age 24. Okay, these contributions will be applicable from the 1st of January. If you are on a Bon Cap option, you have until the end of November to submit your income verification documents. So you would need to submit either 3 months payslip or 3 months bank statement to confirm that you are in the correct income category. If this is not done by the end of November, and you're on a Bon Cap plan, you will be defaulted to the highest income category. So that is extremely important that you remember that the deadline to verify your income is the end of November, on the 30th of November. And then just to round off that new product, that new program, the Be Value option, it has 4 different pillars: health, financial, lifestyle, and insight. Again, this is a free benefit. You can go onto the website and register for this to get discounts under health, like we mentioned earlier, Planet Fitness, Virgin Active, etc. You can get a 10% discount, for example, on Planet Fitness or Virgin Active. There is some financial aid as well. Discount and clicks, you can get some rewards based on your health outcomes and your healthy behavior. And then from an insight perspective, this is more in the form of a library where you can have access to information based on the different health topics. If you are happy with your medical scheme and you don't intend to make any changes, you don't need to do anything. If you are considering changing your plan, you have until the end of November to do so. The deadline for changes is the 30th of November, and changes will be applicable from the 1st of January. If you have any questions, please reach out to NMG directly. You can reach out to the email address at which you received the invite for this webinar. I'm just going to quickly double check to see if there are any questions in the chat. Please feel free to post any questions there. Okay, I don't see any questions. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, have a good day further. Please reach out if you have any questions or need any assistance. Thank you.